VHDA's Rental Housing Division is excited to introduce a new contractor's requisition tool called the Construction Budget Application, or CBA. The tool is accessed through Procorum, and you, the general contractor, or GC, will use it to add values to your subcategory budget after you've finished your line item budget. Keep in mind the line item budget is often referred to as the trade payment breakdown. To learn more about creating your trade payment breakdown, or to view the CBA user guide and other instructional videos, visit vhda.com/MF Underwriting Guides and Forms. This video will demonstrate how to create your subcategory budget and add splits. The subcategory budget is a detailed schedule of values which assigns dollar amounts from the trade payment breakdown to specific tasks and site locations. This is accomplished through the use of splits and pre-populated Construction Specifications Institute, or CSI subsections. We'll focus more on splits and the pre-populated subsections later in this video. It's important to create a detailed subcategory budget because it will become the foundation for your future construction requisitions or applications for payment. Spending time thinking through and planning out your subcategory budget will help you later on as you bill for work completed. Also, it allows your assigned VHDA Construction Control Officer, or CCO, to ensure the loan is in balance throughout construction. To access the Construction Budget application, you must first sign into Procorum. Click the Work Center to access it. Then, click Construction Budget to access the GC budget. Then click View Budget. This will display the line item breakdown, also known as the trade payment breakdown. Click Subcategory Budget. It's important to know that you can work on both your trade payment breakdown and your subcategory budget at the same time. However, the trade payment breakdown must be completed and locked before VHDA can lock the subcategory budget. This is required because the subcategory budget amounts must balance to the associated line item from the trade payment breakdown. As the trade payment breakdown is completed, CBA will transfer each division's dollar amount into the appropriate section of the subcategory budget. Let's look at a sample project as we demonstrate how to add splits and create a subcategory budget. This is the site plan for a sample new construction development of 48 garden-style apartment units. It includes 3 residential buildings, a community building, and a pool. Residential buildings 1 and 2 each contain 1 breezeway and 12 units for a total of 24 units. Residential building 3 contains 2 breezeways, each with 12 units for a total of 24 units. Due to the multiple structures in this sample development, you'll need to first create splits for your subcategory budget. Splits allow you to define how project work will be completed and how units of measure are calculated. They allow you to further break down your budget so subcategory amounts can be allocated to specific components of your project, such as units, buildings, or the site. In CBA, while you're allowed up to 50 splits, at least 1 split is required to lock the subcategory budget. This sample project will have 5 splits, 1 for the site, 1 for the community building, and 1 for each of the 3 residential buildings. We'll access the split screen from the subcategory budget screen. To add a split, click Splits to open the split window. Then, enter the name of the split. Finally, click the plus sign. The split is now added. To edit a split, click the pencil icon. Then, enter the new name. Finally, click the pencil icon again to save your changes. To delete a split, click the X icon. Then, on the confirmation window, click Delete. Once you've added all your splits, you can click the up and down arrows to reorder them. The order of the splits on this window determines how the split columns will appear in the subcategory budget screen and in the subcategory reports. When you finish adding, editing, deleting, and/or reordering your splits, click Save to close the splits window. Once the splits are created, you can begin adding subcategories and dollar amounts to your subcategory budget. On the subcategory budget screen, each blue row corresponds to a line item and its budgeted total amount from the trade payment breakdown. You can click the up arrow in each row to show all the subcategories for the line item, or click the diagonal arrow to expand all line items at once. This division is presently showing as under budget. We'll discuss what statuses mean later in the video. To add a subcategory item, click on the Select Subcategory drop-down menu and then select one of the pre-populated subsections. If you can't find the CSI subsection you're looking for, contact your assigned VHDA CCO and they will add it for you. Next, in the total amount column, enter the value up to 2 decimal places for each subcategory. Note, if you don't enter a value for a subcategory, CBA will treat the amount for that subcategory as 0. Therefore, it won't appear on the locked subcategory budget. If there is a subcategory you need to remove from your subcategory budget, click the X button to the left of the subcategories row. At any time, you can click Save to save your work and come back later to complete the subcategory budget. You are strongly encouraged to save your subcategory budget often until you are ready to submit it for approval. As you enter values in the total amount column, CBA will add the subcategory amounts and compare the total to the line item amount from the trade payment breakdown. Then, CBA will immediately display if the total amount is balanced, over budget, or under budget. All line items must display balanced before VHDA can lock your subcategory budget. After reviewing this division to see why it's over budget, we'll need to correct the mistake in the total amount field for residential bathtubs. You must also enter units of measure across the split columns you created for the project. In order for VHDA to lock the subcategory breakdown, a value must be entered into at least one split per subcategory. CBA will automatically update the total units of measure field based on the split values entered. Units of measure are flexible and can be assigned as the work and materials dictate. They can be used to designate an actual count for materials. For example, if you're installing 12 hot water heaters in building number 2 of our sample project, you'll allocate 12 units of measure. They can also designate a percentage of a larger task to be completed. For example, if you're installing a storm sewer in our sample project, you'll assign 100 units of measure to the site split, which can be requisitioned as a percentage of work completed to date. When working on projects with multiple building types, like our sample project, it may be necessary to assign split values based on the number of breezeways so that the total units of measure for the subcategory and the unit cost are more accurate. For example, in building number 3, which is a 2-breezeway building, you may need twice as many shingles as in buildings number 1 and number 2, which are 1-breezeway buildings. In order for your unit costs to be as accurate as possible, use a value of 100 for the 1-breezeway buildings and a value of 200 for a 2-breezeway building. If you've shingled half of building number 3, you will bill for 100 of the 200 units. VHDA strongly encourages you to create your subcategory budget in this manner so you, the GC, can effectively bill for the maximum amount that month. Additionally, this allows your assigned VHDA CCO to efficiently review the requisition in the field. While the sample project in this video is for a multi-building development, this process can be adapted for other development types, such as a single mid-rise building. In that case, you may want to create a split for each floor in lieu of one for each building. If you have questions about the process for creating your project's subcategory budget, work with your assigned VHDA CCO to determine the best solution. Note, if you wish to bill for on-site stored materials, a few key items are required. First, the GC must have submitted a 12.5% completion assurance letter of credit per the construction contract documents. Additionally, you must submit a list of stored materials to VHDA for approval by emailing it to your assigned VHDA CCO. Once the list is approved, the CCO will add the material names to the appropriate drop-down menus. Once this is done, you will be able to break out labor and material in the subcategory budget. The units of measure entered in the subcategory budget are used to requisition funds. Like in our earlier example with the storm sewer, if a value of 100 is used in a split to indicate a percentage, and then you request 30 units in your requisition, this correlates to being 30% complete for that item. Or, as in the case of our other example with the hot water heaters, if a value of 12 is used in a split to indicate an exact number of units, and then you request 6 units in your requisition, this correlates to being 50% complete for that item. Funds will be allocated based on unit cost. When developing splits, consider that CBA only allows whole number units of measure to be billed for in the monthly GC requisition. So if you choose a split value of 1 when building your subcategory budget, you must be completely finished with that task before you can bill for it. Otherwise, use a value with a multiple of 100, as mentioned previously, so that you may bill for partial completion. On the trade payment breakdown screen, indirect costs, like general requirements, overhead, and profit, are not allocated to subcategories. Instead, they are released in direct correlation to the percentage of work completed. Other indirect costs from the trade payment breakdown, like bond premiums or soil borings, are requested as incurred. Once you've completed your subcategory budget, email your assigned VHDA CCO so they may review it. Once reviewed, if it's approved, the CCO will lock it. Once both of your budgets are locked in CBA, this means no further edits can be made to them. Additionally, once the budgets are locked, from the Trade Payment Breakdown Summary screen, you can click Create Requisition to begin creating your monthly applications for payment or requisitions. To learn more about creating and approving requisitions, or to learn more about using CBA, view the user guide or other instructional videos at vhda.com/MF Underwriting Guides and Forms. If you have any questions about your budget, contact your assigned VHDA CCO.